What better way to think about and talk about and be in the presence of nurturing the divine than on Mother's Day? And I got to thinking a little bit about this because I'm a mama's girl. I am a mama's girl. I texted my mother early this morning. She lives in California, to wish her a happy Mother's Day. So later when she woke up, she wouldn't think I forgot about her, as if I would forget about her. And of course, while I was driving here, she texted back this long thing, as mothers will do. And I tried not to cry while I was driving, and I thought, oh, it's going to be really awesome today, because I'm certain, if I could count on anything, that I will do just that. I will cry. So I want to just look at all of you, and I want you to take a moment to just go inward. Whether your eyes are closed or not, I want you to go inward to think about what mothering or what nurturing is for you. Because Toby mentioned he had someone else that was his nurturing mother figure that fed him the qualities that we deem to see as a mom. And I'm certain many of us have had other people besides our biological mother who were that person. That person might not have even been in the female gender, that gave us those nurturing qualities, that fed us and sustained us and wiped our tears and celebrated everything we did that we were so proud of. And they may no longer be in this form, but they are always in our hearts. And so if we think about those people and how they raised us up, that's to me the ultimate of nurturing the divine. Because we speak about the divine as this wonderful, godlike, spiritual energy. But the divine could be Mother Earth, Mother Nature, that mothers everything by blooming forth that which is so beautiful for us to take in and to see on so many levels and so many layers. And so as you have that person in your heart and in your mind that was that person, think about the qualities that that person instilled within you that are so sacred and are so special and have nurtured the divine within you to this day. And just be with that energy for a moment. Just be still with that for a moment. Allow that just to wrap itself around you as if it was giving you a giant hug. We equate the word nurturing to women. And I can tell you, personal experience, that not all women have the DNA gene of nurturing. You know, and I'm sure it's a challenge for them because they feel some part of them is void because they just can't give that part of themselves. And where it was written that they should be the only ones, I don't know, because I see some amazingly nurturing men in this room. I don't need to say any names. The fact that you are here on Mother's Day tells me so much about that. And so, as we think about Mother's Day as a day that we celebrate once a year to give reflection to that special person, let's think about how we can find ways to take the qualities of what nurturing represents to us and reflect on maybe some other folks in our life that have helped fan that flame and nurture that part of us. To allow us to be nurturers, whether it was our inane nature to be a nurturer or somehow or another we gradually just develop that piece. And I want to read something to you that's very powerful to me. And it's a way of honoring the mother, not the mother, but the mother within all of us, those qualities. Fortunately, my smartphone was much more smart than my printer was this morning. When I was going to print it out to read it, it was wanting to just do its own thing. And I thought, that's just fabulous. So the piece that I'm going to read you is by a woman by the name of Amy Young, who is not a birth mother, a mother who has given birth to children. And it's called An Opening Letter to Pastors. A non-mother speaks about Mother's Day. When I read this, it just was really powerful. So the person that is actually relaying this got permission from Amy to be able to publish it. And it starts out, "Dear Pastor, tone can be tricky in writing. Picture me popping my head into your office door smiling and asking if we could talk for 5 minutes. I'm sipping on my Diet Coke as I sit down. You know that I'm not one to shy away from speaking my mind. Part of the reason you love me, mostly. So I'm guessing that you're internally embracing and wondering, oh my, what's next? I set my can down, and this is what I'd say. A few years ago, I sat across from a woman who told me she doesn't go to church on Mother's Day because it's too hurtful. It's too hurtful. I'm not a mother, but I'd never seen the day as hurtful. She had been married, had numerous miscarriages, divorced, and was beyond childbearing years. It was like the salt in mostly healed wounds to go to church on that day. And it made me sad. And I could understand that. Fast forward several years to Mother's Day. A pastor asked all the mothers to stand. On my immediate right was my mother standing. And on my immediate left, a dear friend. I don't know how others saw me, but I felt dehumanized, gutted as a woman. Real women stood, empty shells sat. I do not normally feel this way. I do not like feeling this way. I want no woman to ever feel this way again in church. Can you see why so far I wanted to read this? Last year, a friend of mine was visiting from the States and happened to visit on Mother's Day, and again the pastor, this time a different one, asked all mothers to stand. As a mother, she stood, and I whispered to her, I can't take it, I'm standing. She knows I'm not a mother, but she understood anyway, the standing in the lie. Here's the thing. I believe we can honor mothers without alienating others. I want women to feel welcome, appreciated, seen, and needed here in the little neck of our Christ body. Do away with the standing. You mean well, but it's awkward. Does a woman stand who had a miscarriage? Does the mom whose child ran away stand? Does the single woman who is pregnant stand? Awkward. Acknowledge the wide continuum of mothering. To those who gave birth this year to their first child, we celebrate with you. To those who lost a child this year, we mourn with you. To those who are in the trenches with little ones every day and wear the badge of food stains, we appreciate you. To those who experience loss through miscarriage, failed adoption, or running away, we mourn with you. To those who walk the hard path of infertility, fraught with pokes, prods, and tears, and the disappointment, we walk with you. Forgive us when we say foolish things. We don't mean to, and it makes it harder than it needs to be. To those of you who are foster moms, mentor moms, spiritual moms, we need you. To those who have warm and close relationships with your children, we celebrate you. For those who have distance, heartache, and distance with your children, we sit with you. To those who lost their mothers this year, we grieve for you. To those who experienced abuse by the hands of your own mother, we acknowledge your experience. To those who have lived through driving tests, medical tests, and the overall testings of motherhood, we are better for having you in our midst. To those who were single and long to be married and mothering your own children, we mourn that life that has turned out not to be the way you longed for. And to those step-parents, we walk with you in this complex path. To those who've envisioned lavish loving on grandchildren, yet the dream may not have come true, we grieve with you. To those who will be empty nesters this coming year, we grieve and also rejoice with you. And to those who've placed children up for adoption, we commend you for your selflessness. And remember how you hold that child in your heart. And to those who are pregnant with new life, both expected and surprised, we anticipate with you. This Mother's Day, we walk with you. Mothering is not for the faint of heart, and we have real warriors in our midst. We remember you. Commend mothers for the ways it reflects the image of God by bringing forth new life, nurturing those on her path, and living with the tension of providing both freedom and a safety net. And I know this may not be a usual way to speak on Mother's Day, but maybe that's why so many of you talk about mothering. I've got the parts, but just not the goods. Thanks for listening and continuing to mother us in a shepherding way. Even though I'm a bit nervous to come on Sunday, I will be here. But if you make us stand, I just might leave. Let that resonate for a moment. And I'm sorry if that evoked pain and emotion for some of you. And yet I'm not sorry, because my purpose was to acknowledge all of us. Those of us that have consciously, like myself, chosen not to bring children into this world, knowing that was not within my temperament at that young age in life. And to those of us, as perhaps I am now, at the time in life where we're the parent and there's a rewind and we're parenting those we loved and nurturing those we loved by being the caretaker at a different point in time. For the men and women that are nurturers, we nurture because it allows us to remind ourselves that that is how we tap into the divine within us, to listen to the gifts and talents, to the wisdom within us, to go forth into our day and to be that divine presence showing up in someone's life that maybe needs a hug and maybe doesn't want a hug in physical form but wants it through our tender emotions, our tender presence, and our willingness to listen. That to me is what nurturing is. That to me is what nurturing the divine within me and out into the we is. And so, yes, it's a day that we traditionally honor our mothers. But if you can take a moment to see how sometimes that separates other people without ever intending to do it, I know that we would not do that consciously. Now, I woke up this morning and I have the pleasure to be a mother to a fur baby. Some of you are mother to wings and slitheries. But because it allows us to have that nurturing quality to give to them and allow them to give to us is what, again, nurturing the divine is to me. So on this day, many of you traditionally go out to brunch, go to lunch, go to dinner, cook something for someone. Please remember to be sensitive to the fact that as you run around with an open, joyous heart saying, Happy Mother's Day, Happy Mother's Day, someone might not be experiencing it that way. And consider the possibility of just saying, Happy Day, and making eye contact with that person so that they get the connection that you're wanting to make with them without possibly having a hurtful experience for them unknowingly. I'm going to regress for a second. I have a dear friend visiting me, and I'm so grateful on this day because as I tell this story, I'm sure she'll try not to crack up out loud. Being a mama's girl, as I had mentioned, last week I was at a chaplain conference in Denver. Now, I'd been checking the weather, and in my mind I thought, oh, you could drive this. This is not a big deal. And I'm not really familiar with the terrain, so I asked people, like Lynn, who spends time in Denver or time in Colorado, how are the roads? How are the roads? Are they windy? Are they curvy? Oh, no, there's only a small patch. It's okay. And I'm checking the weather, and a little part of me thought, oh, maybe I should fly. And then the judge part of me said, Wimpy, can't even make a drive there, Wimpy. And I pushed that piece aside and I said, no, let me look at this. And I looked at the terrain and I've been checking the weather, and the weather showed nothing to do with poor weather. No rain, no snow, sleet or hail. Now, what I didn't know was that I should talk to someone maybe like Toby, who lived in that area, and say, hey, what do you think? Maybe he would have said, take the plane. Take the plane. Or have someone else drive you. I had a colleague flying in from California who asked, can someone pick me up at the airport? I'm a Cali girl. I don't drive in snow. I had actually offered to pick her up and said, I'm a Cali girl too, but I'll be happy to help. Fortunately, she did pick someone else. That's good for her. So I'm driving. In the morning, I check the weather. Nothing for the week. Nothing. No thing. And I'm driving, and I hit a couple of hilly, mountainy parts that make me a little nervous, which has happened in the past year for me. I never used to get nervous when I drove, and now I have these little weird panic attacks. And I prayed, and I nurtured the divine within me from pulling off to the side of the road and melting down and turning around and driving home and saying, I'm getting on an airplane, heck with this nonsense. And maybe I should have. So as I'm a few hours outside of Denver, there's all these lovely signs. You know, with warnings about we're preparing the roads. Are you getting ready for that? And I'm thinking to myself, right? La, 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 la. And I'm getting closer and the weather's turning bad. You know, when it gets that gray-white sensation and you're thinking to yourself, Liz is having a good time with this. Special Mother's Day present for you, Liz, okay? And I'm driving and I'm thinking in my mind, ooh, I got to get ahead of this, like I could get ahead of this. So I'm now driving in an area and it's sort of mountainy and I'm sort of getting a little nervous and I'm praying to the divine within myself that God's got this. God is driving the car. I'm just opening my eyes and following instructions, pretty much. And as I'm driving and the weather's getting a little worse and it's getting a little worse and it's now where I really can't see much of anything, I'd already planned in my mind where I would stay the night because I chose to drive that way instead of getting up at really like 4 a.m. and trying to drive straight through. Good thing I did that. And I started panicking because I started seeing now signs that said chains. I'm happy that I'm a Cali girl with an ice scraper in my car. You think I have chains? Or I would know what to do with a chain? Seriously. Seriously. I mean, think about that. Look at me. Do I look like I could stand outside and put chains on? Perhaps. More importantly, I probably would whine about it. So, and that is the truth. I would just stand there on the side of the road holding chains going, wah. So here I am thinking, okay, I've already looked at where do I want to stay for the night. And as I am trying to push through, I'm realizing that I'm in a mountain area doing things and I can't really, between the snow and the really non-visibility, sense where the heck I'm at. And I'm now just thinking, I don't care what. I'm stopping the car. I'm pulling over. I'm getting a hotel. I'm shaking inside. I go to get the room. The woman says, you know, how many, 2 people? And I said, just 1. And inside my mind, I'm thinking, I got a committee of people. I don't think you have a room big enough for all of them. So just 1 will show up in this room. I get in the room and I call home to say I'm safe. And every part of me is like this. And every part of me is thinking, what am I going to do if I have to chain up in the morning? Like, I really don't know what I'm supposed to do for this retreat. So what do all little girls do when we're frightened? That's what we do. We call mom. Doesn't matter if you're 60 years old. If your mother's still on this earth plane, you call mom. And if she's not on this earth plane, you're calling the spiritual mom. Seriously. And my mother's first words are, oh, honey, what made you decide to drive in inclement weather? I don't know. I had a moment of lapse of judgment. And so here I am, 5. Mommy, there wasn't bad weather when I was driving in there. You know, I'm doing this bit. And so the beautiful thing is I have a mom that's a practitioner in this teaching. So we prayed. we prayed. Okay. And she says, it's going to be okay. And I've put out prayer requests to people, and I'm going to call different people, and we're all going to pray. We're all going to pray. And it'll be just fine. Next call I make is to Sister Jane to talk about music for Sunday. That'll distract me a little bit from my panic attack I'm having. But I said this to you because throughout the whole thing, my mother's like, please text me to let me know you got there okay. And I am. Now she's trying to figure out a way. She's in California. I am in Granby, off of 40 in the mountains. Now I know if I'd have said this to any of you, you'd have said, oh honey, don't drive your car. You won't know what to do. I asked the wrong people. Should have just asked you, and you would have said, don't do it, sweetheart. Seriously, you just don't do it. The whole time my mother's trying to think of a way to, like, get me home, beamed in through some miraculous manner. Like, just send me your magic carpet and we'll be good. But I say this to just say, it didn't matter if it was her, because then I got the call from my brother. Sissy, why'd you drive in snow? He's 55 years old. Sissy, why did you drive in snow? because I'm a moron, you know. I'm thinking to myself, they're talking to me like I'm literally 5 years old and I did something so silly. Why would I do it? And I just smiled and I thought, you know what, that's them just sharing their love and their concern for me. And I appreciated it, and they were very happy when I did get home. But here's another step in the divine of nurturing the divine. The part of me that drove there and was absolutely shaking with fear was the same part that said, I'm not driving that mountain to get home. I don't care who's taking me down that mountain. I'm not doing it. I'm not. And I had to pray on that and remind myself that God was that bigger force. And then I had to forgive myself for putting myself in a position not to be nurturing the divine within me, because I put myself in a situation that did not feel safe to me. So the divine, nurturing the divine, isn't something out there. The divine is within you. The divine is within Mother Earth. The divine is within every single person that you meet. And if we can remember to be in that nurturing, graceful place, we can also ask for support. And just quick fast forward, I did not drive down 40. I got dropped off at the entry of 70 and prayed the rest of the way. And if you want more details on that, I'll do that on a sidebar, because that'll just bring me into another panic attack. That was horrifying. Oh my gosh. So guess what I'm going to do for the November retreat? Can I get that louder? Thank you. I want all the parts of me to hear the piece that says, you're flying, girlfriend. You're not going to drive in November in snow or anything else. But it was a really beautiful experience for me to remember nurturing the divine is also just that nurturing quality of me. And I'm going to elaborate a tiny bit on what Toby had asked for prayer for joyful. And I'm going to speak it a little more raw and a little more real, because it's necessary. I've had the honor to be sitting and visiting with her and praying with her for a little while. I'm so grateful. And I've now watched a woman who I've had conversations about religious science teaching with, which has just amazed and opened my heart as a person, let alone as a minister. I have watched her within 2 days decline rapidly. So what I know is that there is no time in God, but I do know that the time is short in the human experience for joyful. And we've spoken about this and prayed to just let go. So the miraculous thing would be that she no longer suffer. The miraculous thing that she be able to just go to sleep. And if you'll all just be willing, whether you've met her, known her, shared with her at all, to just see her as nurturing the divine. Because that's who she is. She's a nurturer. She's a nurturer. Then we can send her to the next dimension of the divine with all of our nurturing abilities. And I appreciate you knowing that and seeing that as part of the next steps of what the divine is all about. One level of good to the next level of good, one dimension to the next dimension. It's part of nurturing the divine. So if you'll go within for a moment with me as we pray. Great Holy Mother, Mother Earth, Mother Spirit, that is the mother of all, the great mother of all, who mothers us and nurtures us and sustains us and reminds us we are connected to you, O Holy Mother. Regardless of how you appear, male, female, your Holy Spirit of nurturing and sustaining us and reminding us that we are connected to each other. And it is our job as human beings to step into the divine within ourselves, to find ways to nurture and share our kind spirit, our kind words, our wisdom, our talents, our gifts with others, whether it's one or two or many, so that just as the people that were the nurturers and the sustainers that help to continue to rise us up and praise us up and keep us uplifted to be who we are today, that we take that role to others in our life. And if it's not your nature to do that, it is your nature to share your love of a smile to another being, to raise and praise and uplift them, to remind them that they are connected to something far bigger, far greater than just their immediate space of breathing. And that today, as we celebrate mothers everywhere who identify as male and females, sharing the gifts of nurturing that we identify with as a label of mother, we raise and praise all of those open to receiving that joy, open to receiving that smile, that hug, that heartfelt connection. And we remind ourselves that it is not just one day on the calendar, but every day, every opportunity that we have, that we reach out to others. That is how we nurture the divine within all. That's how we nurture the divine within Mother Earth, so that the peace that we seek within us and without is available because it's the peace we are consciously putting forth. And I know that if there's any part of this that resonates with you, that you'll let it just permeate and wash over you deeply. And if there's any mind chatter about it that isn't the truth for you, be willing to just rethink it. Be willing to have gratitude and great thanks in your life for all those who have come into your sacred space and offered you joy, offered you a hand, offered you grace, offered you dignity when you needed it so. And then be willing to choose again and do that same thing for another. And as we give great thanks for this symbol of Mother's Day to remind us to be a nurturing spirit, because it is our nature to be just that, I just give great thanks for everyone who's open to that concept. And I know how powerful it is when we speak the word, when we think the word, when we collectively know the word for ourselves and others. And so as we've held this thought in consciousness, we now can release it to the action of law, knowing that the answer is always yes, if we're open to accepting that in our good graces. And we let God do what God does best. So we let go and we let God, knowing it's already done, as we desire and beyond and beyond and beyond. If any of this prayer resonates, please respond with me by saying, "And so it is." Thank you.